Here is an example of a real MCAT CP passage, the main points of the paragraphs, and the central thesis of the passage.
Electric currents in the vastly complex system of billions of nerves in our body allow us to sense the world, control parts of our body, and think. These tasks are representative of the three major functions of nerves. First, nerves carry messages from our sensory organs and other organs to the central nervous system, consisting of the brain and the spinal cord. Second, nerves carry messages from the central nervous system to muscles and organs. And third, nerves transmit and process signals within the central nervous system. The sheer number of nerve cells and the incredibly greater number of connections between them makes this system the subtle wonder that it is. Nerve conduction is a general term for electrical signals carried by nerve cells. It is one aspect of bioelectricity or electrical effects in and created by biological systems.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to summarize this paragraph, and I'm sure that this was mentioned in your last session, although the passage there was rather small.
Yeah.
The purpose of these summaries is to make sure that you have an idea of what information is in what paragraph. This helps you with the questions to know what paragraph to go back to. This is also really important and translates really well to cars as well. These summaries give you an idea of what is provided, what the author is trying to convey, and then you can get the author's argument towards the end as well. So what would be a quick summary for this paragraph?
It kind of explains the functions of the nervous systems and the nervous system and its different steps, I guess.
Yeah, I would say that this is really just an overview of the major functions of nerves and their importance in biological systems. But you don't need anything too complex for these summaries, just so that you have an idea. Anything that asks you about the functions of nerves, you know what paragraph to go back to.
Yeah.
Okay, I can actually read off the second one and we can go back and forth. So nerve cells, properly referred to as neurons, visually differ from other cell types. They have tendrils, some of them many centimeters long, which connect them with other cells. Signals arrive at the neuronal cell body across synapses or through dendrites, stimulating the neuron to generate its own signal, which is sent along its long axon to other nerve or muscle cells. Signals may arrive from many other locations and be transmitted to yet others, conditioned in synapses by use and given the system its complexity and ability to learn. So it would be the summary there.
I would say the breakdown of the neuron itself or the different parts of the cell. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is just kind of given that composition of neurons, also mentioning its importance in carrying out these signals and communicating with other nerves and cells. All right, and then that final paragraph.
Signals are transmitted by pumping ions across the cell membrane. Sodium ions are pumped out of cells while potassium ions are pumped into cells. The result is a chemical gradient for each ion. The concentration of sodium is higher outside the cell than within, whereas the opposite is true for potassium. Ion channels differentiate sodium and potassium ions by size. Ion size is an example of a periodic property, the properties whose values can be predicted based on an element's position on the periodic table. So this one is basically how the signals are transmitted and where the ions are based on inside or outside the cell.
Yeah, I would say that this is really describing kind of the role of sodium and potassium ions in, as you said, conducting nerve signals to communicate. And also it mentions the difference here be in size. And then another strategy that we definitely recommend is making sure that you come up with an overall central thesis of the passage. So for these type of passages here, it might just be kind of your summaries put together. For others, though, there might be more of a story for that central thesis, and especially for cars, there might be an underlying argument that is ongoing that you can really cement with your central thesis. So what would you say is the central thesis of this passage?
It's just like breaking down the nervous system into more and more details, whereas the first one's kind of just like the function of it. And then the second paragraph is more about the different parts of the cell. And then the third one is how exactly the signals are transmitted.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's really just giving us information about nerves in general, and you can kind of just repeat the summaries for this type of passage.
Understanding the central thesis of an MCAT CP passage is essential for your success in this section. Use these tips to score in the 90th percentile or higher. Stick around for the questions that go with this passage.